I'm going to include this video, this minute identification video, in my spring foraging video just for the information. And even though this is a fast minute mushroom video for fast IDing, I'm going to make this one a little longer because of the genus of mushrooms that we're in. We're in Gyramitra. And the term false morel is a term that we're trying to get rid of. It's an umbrella term that kind of covers several genus of mushrooms. And the problem is it hinders our education. It hinders our growth. It keeps us from being able to know what we're looking at. And I think that if we use that term, it's going to stop us from looking at the Gyramitras that are delicious and edible. And we have several genus of mushrooms that contain dangerous mushrooms to eat. Phytosope is one of them. Cortinarius is another one. Where there are delicious mushrooms in these genus, so we have to know down to the species what it is. And the umbrella term, unfortunately, causes us not to look at the species rather than to just walk by and ignore it because we think it's a false morel. And reality, the term, it's kind of ugly in itself in that anything could be a false morel. It's just nonsensical. I wanted to introduce you guys to the Gyramitra Brunnea. I think this is one of the easiest of the Gyramitras to find, but that's just my opinion. I also think it's one of the easiest Gyramitras to identify. That's also my opinion. Now, on a fast ID on this, I'm going to include some plates that were put together by a person in a Facebook group called False Morels Demystified. I encourage you to join it, read over the rules, and participate in the learning that's going on. I think what they're doing in that group is wonderful. Okay, so on this species, the Gyramitra Brunnea, in some areas of the world, they're called elephant ear. Typically on this mushroom, there's a seam where the cap is folding in on itself, and there's a seam that runs around it. See this seam? The stalk is usually, but not always, very, very wide and short. It's also white. You can see that the stem here is white. And when I cut this mushroom in half, you're going to see that the cap isn't connected to the stem. And in a Morchella, you would see a honeycomb pitting pattern. On a Gyramitra, you're not going to see that. You're going to see a cap that isn't connected to the stem. You can see the cap isn't connected to the stem. You can see that it folds itself down around the stem without attaching. The seam on this is the dead giveaway for this particular species. Now, in the genus of Gyramitra, there are toxic Gyramitras that need a special preparation in order to consume. I don't know that preparation, and I don't mess with those mushrooms, which I'll give a list of that on this video. There's also some unknowns. But in my area of southern Michigan, central Michigan, northern Michigan, northern Indiana, there are a few species of Gyramitra that I hope to introduce you to that are delicious. This is actually Dawn's favorite right here. And she has a couple favorites.
I have a couple favorites, yeah.
But this one, every time she eats it, she says it's my favorite. And then she'll eat a hen of the woods and she'll say it's her favorite. The elephant ear is a common term in certain areas of the country. Common terms are kind of dangerous because it hinders us from research. And believe it or not, I was reading a thread where they explained that a common term is elite. It's elite because it's a traditional term akin to a specific geographic location. When I was in Kentucky I remember an old timer stopping on the side of the road asking me what I was doing. Of course, I was hunting for morels, and when I told him that, he looked confused and he says, "You mean fish, F-E-E-S-H." And later on, I heard the term several more times in Kentucky. So in Kentucky, they call morchella or morel fish, which you can't look that up. You can't research that. So it's a tradition, and it's more elite than the scientific name. Knowing the scientific name of a mushroom not only teaches you something about it, but it allows you to find a genus of a plant or a mushroom and then come down to the species and know exactly what you're looking at and to research the information on it. So I'll call it the elephant ear. Just know that that's not a term that you'll see in most field guides. Also, there's a lot of information that's kind of misdirected because of the, I'm going to call it mycophobia and the umbrella term. And so some field guides are going to misrepresent Gyramitra. This Gyramitra is perfectly edible when thoroughly cooked, and all wild mushrooms should always be thoroughly cooked. So let's do some research, and hopefully I can find some more of the Gyramitras that are in our local area that we enjoy and get rid of the taboo and the mycophobia surrounded around the Gyramitras and stop using the term false morel. Let's go find some false Gyramitras here in a week.